listeners, your boy KB. Oh man, I'm really happy that I hit record. Maybe you needed to hear this today. I am exhausted, but it's like the good kind of exhausted to where like I feel good. I'm just exhausted. But it's kind of like a perpetual exhausted though. But I do feel like I'm finally somehow getting my sleep kind of back. A few years it's like the longest. This is definitely not a sprint, it's a marathon, and that right there is a microcosm of life itself, man. Because anything that's like that instant, you like, it'll the reward is gone in an instant. But anything that takes like a long time to build, you feel the reward. The reward is makes up for it. Essentially, that's just one of the. It just takes a really, really long time to get there. I guess I don't know. But it can't just be all about I guess the journey's half the fun. The journey, and if you're doing it the right way, the journey is supposed to be. And nobody's got all the answers. Anybody that does is full of shit. Everything is such a spectrum. There's not one way of anything. And that's one of the beautiful things about life, honestly. I think anybody that, you can definitely become very knowledgeable about stuff, but even like a guy named Brian Cox, who's an astronomer, I think, or an astrophysicist, or maybe just a theoretical physicist, I don't know, but a man that has a very good understanding of just the theories of the universe, and how stars and stuff are made, and the impact of our planets around us, and our rotation around the sun. And somebody asked him a question, and it had to do more with quantum, like deep, maybe quantum physics, and he didn't even want to answer it too much, and said deferred to a colleague of his that he knew actually specialized in that. And I just thought, like, even that, like, somebody that a layman would say, like, oh, he's a rocket scientist, essentially, and had every chance to just, like, act like he knew everything, and had the humility to step back and say, well, actually, I'm not the expert in this. Even though it's a science, it was a science-based question. It wasn't like a health one. But, and that leads me to saying that, like, the more you learn and the more you know, the less you understand that you don't know anything. The more, like, so, we really don't have, any understanding of, but another thing I'll say is that if you've been alive for 30, 40, 50 years, and you've had the same idea about the way things are and the way the world works today that you had in 2015, or like, we'll just say 2010. We'll just say 2010. If how you feel about the world and just everything right now is really close to, or pretty much the same as it was in 2010 to 2015, then, like, you're not growing. You're not paying attention, or and anybody could try and be some, oh, I'm doing all this. Or anything, that's BS. And I don't know. I think it's sometimes funny how when some people have a really short memory and they can say some really wild out there stuff and claims that are just nowhere near to reality, especially a few years ago, and just be completely wrong and say like, we'll say like 20 outrageous things in a month, okay, and then like per month, and then maybe and then like a year later it turned out that like one or two of those things turned out to be right, and then that person can go back and then act like, I see, I was right the entire. It's like, come on though, really. But I guess that's kind of where we're at with stuff nowadays. But so earlier today, I went and spoke for a little bit at my local inpatient drug and alcohol treatment center. Just go in for a little bit and talk to people and, try and tell them about my story and things that have helped me, get to where I am today. Which, I mean, I remember, being in that chair and thinking 2 years sounded like forever. It still kind of does, but that I wanted to just get to 2 years. Like I didn't want to go through any of the work. I just wanted to like go to sleep and wake up one day and like just be where I was, and because I knew that, but like I wouldn't trade the journey either. I mean, I've learned so much about myself and so much about my emotions and like how to process them, and like what sadness really is, and how to identify it between like being afraid, and like being a man and being like, holy shit, like I'm afraid, like I'm not gonna say whatever, or just like, or genuinely so mad to where like, but and knowing, like telling yourself like you have to give yourself 2 minutes, because in 2 minutes you're not gonna, you're gonna feel differently, but you have to do whatever it is you can to get to that 2 minutes without killing somebody, and I trust myself now too, because like whenever I tell myself to, like, I'm proud of myself, and I'm a man of estimable character now, or at least I feel, where I pretend like one enough that we're pretty much indistinguishable at this point. I try to be, and so I'm proud of who I am and what I'm doing, and so it makes me happy, and it's easier to want to keep doing that, because it's like all reward and not much of a risk, because I'm not setting any expectations with much anything. I'm just trusting the universe, trying to be present as a father and as a son, to take care of my kids and take care of my dad, and to try and be learn as much as I can at work, like doing what I do, because I work at an electronic and components like factory. We make PCBs, and I work in stock control and receiving, and it's whatever, but I want to be good at it. You know what I mean? And I want to be good at helping people, and I want to be good at being a dad and being creative, and putting out a positive vibration, so that maybe it can resonate with somebody else's and help them um, but so coping mechanisms or something that because whenever you're a very toxic, unhealthy person, you don't have any coping mechanisms, or really really shitty ones, um, unhealthy ones, and sometimes that involves maybe hurting other people, usually yourself, but like not necessarily like physical abuse, but maybe like emotional, lashing out at other people. I know whole generations of that kind of stuff happening, and it was like you just had to like accept it, especially if it was just part of your family. Like the idea that you didn't have to have that person in your life forever was like such a foreign concept for such a long time, which is really interesting. So, it's taken a long time to learn new coping mechanisms, though, and whenever people try and teach you, you know, that the resources are out there. It's incredible how knowledgeable things can that you find to read can be, and if you actually do stuff. But people just get so the rut is dug so deep that it's not just a groove, it's that you're like inside of a cavern and it's impossible to crawl out of it. But like if you yell help and want to get out, like you can, but then once you're out of the rut, you realize like, oh, like I am. This is kind of scary. I like my rut, but your rut's a dirty, disgusting place. It stinks probably, and people will pull you up. Now, they'll pull you as far away as they can from the rut, but eventually you're gonna have control of your faculties again, and you're going to be able to walk back to where that rut was, and it'll still be there. It'll be there waiting for you. It'll be empty and it'll be waiting for you. And my dumb ass has crawled right back in there a couple like I remember seeing the meme of the guy that pulled the lamb that jumped in out of like this like ditch that they made, and he spent all this time pulling the lamb out, and then jumped and thought it could clear it again, and it didn't exactly. And the guy's just like, dude, so I'm just gonna shoot this thing. Yeah, and I think it even says like, this is Jesus or this is God, like watching me. I'm not even saying like people get so bent out of shape about the God that it's and other people get too caught up in trying to tell people what their God is and should be and how it functions, and that's nobody else's business. But I know that if you're at least open to communicating with whatever you got going on, that usually something will pick up on the other line. And maybe you needed to hear this today. Come join me along my spiritual journey through the realms nether, of other, beyond. This is a space that I've created to just, talk about things that matter, that all people deal with, that I am aware of, that I know have helped me, and that other people have taught me. So these aren't like concepts and things, like stuff that I thought up on my own. These are all things that I was taught and were told, and before I was told those things, somebody else told me that I need to listen and take suggestions. So then after I was told that, I did, and then those people gave me them, and they were really, really good. And today, living a life that I didn't think I deserved for a long time, and that I was just never going to have. And I can't wait to see what, if this is what happens in 2 years, then I can't wait to see what happens in 2 more years, or what happens in 4 years, because, the interest compounds. Right on, man. We'll see you later. Thank you.